Show that I chose to do is I wanted to apply solution-based narrative therapy on the characters of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is a show about a group of friends who own a bar in Philadelphia, and they just get themselves in all kinds of trouble. I'm gonna start with I'm using two different families from the show with for each therapy. Uh, for each therapy. So I'm gonna start with the McDonald family. Um, the main character is Mac. He is a 30-year-old man who lives with his best friend Dennis, who both have a share in the bar. Um, and Mac has a very poor relationship with his parents. Um, his father, neither of his parents have any interest in bonding or getting to know him. His father was an ex-convict who was in prison for dealing meth. His mother is a very she's a heavy smoker, very indifferent, has no attitude about anything in life. At least that's the how they're portraying the character in the show. To provide a little, I actually wanted to show the genogram to give a better idea. So the dashes are to symbolize in the distant poor relationship, and the dots are indifferent um, or apathetic. And of course, Mrs. Mack has a very apathetic relationship with both. Really, she actually has came out to say she hates Luther, um, but I thought it'd be more appropriate because that was one scene, so I thought it made more sense just to leave it as indifferent. And Mac is obviously wants the family to be all together. Um, just to provide a little clip, I know that we're short on time, but just to show a little bit about the family. So this scene is about Mac wanting to get his family close together after his father was released from prison, but they have no interest really. Actually, in the beginning of the scene, I could show that real quick. They're just watching TV. They don't care to bond or to get the family together. This is Luther. That's Mrs. Mac, and here's Mac. And again, so he's just trying to get the family together, reunite, and the dinner doesn't go as planned.
Okay, guys, you guys ready? Are you ready? All right, you look ready. All right, let's do it.
Okay, that was just to show how they really just don't care. And then towards the end, when the dinner fails,
They're bad in their home and their life. No, Charlie, that's not what this is about. Yes, no, this is about people meeting back up after many years and sparks flying and families getting back together and raising little boys so that they can be happy again. Okay, happy boys. This is about happy boys.
Bonnie, I'll call you sometime.
That's it. Oh, that's it. That's it, Brady.
so Luther hits on Charlie's mom right in front of his wife. Mrs. Mac doesn't care, and the dinner doesn't go as planned, and Mac is very, very frustrated. Here's another. I thought I would provide gifts just because of time, where Mac is telling his dad, "I love you" behind the glass, and Luther does not reciprocate that love. Um, so I thought solution based is definitely one of my personal favorites. I thought there was many therapies that could be applied for the McDonald's family, but I chose to go with solution based. Um, so the couple clearly do despise one another. I think it's again, I don't know if Luther really cares. Yeah, I don't think he even cares. But Mrs. Mac doesn't. She does not like him. I think hate is probably the more appropriate word. Hates Luther. She doesn't like that he abandoned them. When he was imprisoned, when he was imprisoned, Luther is upset that she doesn't acknowledge the efforts that he's made and the sacrifices he's made to be there for the family. Um, so with solution based, I thought what would be appropriate is to encourage the family to use more I statements and less you statements. So, for example, if Luther feels like Mrs. Mack isn't acknowledging that he was imprisoned for the family. He can, rather than say, you only look at the negative parts of me, he can say, I feel like you pay attention to what I've done wrong, um, less attention to what I've done for the family, and more attention on what I've done wrong. Um, and then using the scaling questions to to rate their progress. So kind of giving them homework and to come in every week and to um, show the therapist their progress and how they think they've done. Again, because it's time, so let's jump to the Reynolds family. The Reynolds family is Frank Barbara, who are the couple, and Dean Dennis. Ruth Mathis, as you can see here, is pretty much the actual biological father of Frank Dennis and Dee. Dennis and Dee are twins who also have a share in the bar. Dee is more of an employee than an owner. Frank later finds out, the whole family actually finds out later on, obviously 30 years later, that they are that the actual biological father is Ruth Mathis and not Frank. So Frank labels his wife as a whore throughout the show, and has strong hate for her. They actually have strong hate for each other. Barbara, really, her argument is he's selfish because he wants to donate all their wealth, for donate to charity, and she uses manipulative techniques to get his to get her husband to not donate. I actually have a GIF here to provide a little bit more insight. Frank says, "I hate the kind of person that your whore mother turned me into." So he's neglected his kids, his family for so long because he was always so concerned with work. Now, 30 years later, he wants to try to make up for that, and by donating, he thought that would be the best way to start. So Frank is no, okay. So to provide a little bit more background, but with Dennis and Dee, Dennis very narcissistic and sociopathic tendencies. I don't want. I think he really is. He would be properly diagnosed. There was an episode where he was diagnosed as having borderline, and I'm sure others, but I'm pretty sure that was the angle the producers were going for. So, anyways, he does objectify women, and he only participates in activities. Most of his life is about what benefits him. He will do whatever he has to as long as it benefits him. And of course, as you can see here, there was a scene in the show where he calls himself God and repeatedly calls himself a golden god throughout the series. Dee really is the butt of all the jokes. She was bullied in high school and bullied again with her group of friends. So it's the gang, quote unquote, is her, Dennis, her brother, Frank, her father, and then Charlie and Mac. This is Charlie and Mac, and they repeatedly make fun of her, and she claims to be compassionate, understanding, and having moral views, but she is just as morally corrupt as her brother and their friends. She's not as selfish as Dennis and Barbara, and of course Frank. Well, they all can be selfish in their own ways, but she is seen as to be also selfish throughout the show. For example, when she a boy that had a crush on her for so long, she used him to do many things like um, lick a dog's turd, I believe. Yeah, it was disgusting, but she manipulated to get what she wanted. So pretty much like her mother, and as you could see, the family is pretty dysfunctional. Um, so what I thought was the most appropriate solution. Oh, and of course, I provided a GIF of the gang all together. And they're making fun of her, calling her a bird, and laughing at her, and she's still there, taking the emotional and verbal abuse. I applied narrative therapy on Arnold's family. Um, I, I wasn't sure if this was the best fit, but I wanted to go for well, to be honest, it's one of my personal favorites, so I really wanted to use it myself onto the family. I don't know if it was the best fit. I mean, it worked out, but I think there could have been other therapy methods to be used. Um, so what I thought, of course, in narrative therapy, a narrative therapist wants to separate the person from the problem. So to getting the family to, rather than, for example, Frank calling Barbara a whore and Barbara calling Frank selfish, to separate them from those adjectives, and to really see the person and the problem separate. I'm hoping that makes sense. So, at least to an unconscious or subconscious level, when we're, if I don't remember who quoted this, but I am what I think. So, I guess to go to apply to the narrative therapy, if the person does see themselves as depressed or anxious, then of course, and I'm not to say that they're not properly have this right diagnosis for it, but of separating that to say that they don't have to let those things control their lives, let them have control. So we wanted to definitely separate them from those words, and to do so, we would like them to substitute the adjectives for nouns. So um, you're gonna have to bear with me with my grammar. So instead of Frank calling Barbara a whore, he could say, and obviously making it more positive. So um, I was hurt, and yeah, using I statements. I was hurt that my wife's promiscuous behavior made me feel betrayed, whatever it may be. And then Barbara can do the same. Um, Frank's Frank donating all our money uh, shows that he's concerned only with himself. Um, and Dennis and Dee can um, say that their father, rather than saying they have a bad father, that their father was busy with his work instead of paying more attention to them, so on and so forth. So yeah, that was pretty much uh, the two families, the show that I used, and this is the approach that I took. Um, hope you guys enjoyed this, and I strongly recommend. I don't want to say strongly, but I recommend watching it. It's a very funny show, and yeah.